Good morning. Today we're bringing you a story that reads like a Hollywood thriller, but every moment is real. It's a tale that begins in the quiet hours before dawn, when most of New Orleans was still asleep, and ends with a dramatic arrest hundreds of miles away. For 5 long months, the city of New Orleans and the entire state of Louisiana were captivated, and at times, terrified, by the unfolding saga of a jailbreak that seemed almost impossible. Newsrooms buzzed with updates, headlines screamed of the daring escape, and the public watched anxiously as the search dragged on. At the center of it all was Derrick Groves, a name that quickly became infamous. Groves wasn't just another inmate, he was the last of 10 men who managed to break free from the Orleans Parish Justice Center, a facility thought to be secure. While his fellow escapees were caught one by one, Groves managed to stay a step ahead, outsmarting authorities and evading capture far longer than anyone expected. His escape set off a massive multi-state manhunt. Police combed neighborhoods, set up checkpoints, and followed up on countless tips. Residents were on edge, locking their doors and looking over their shoulders, while law enforcement worked around the clock, determined to bring Groves in. The sense of urgency was palpable, and the fear that he might strike again kept communities on high alert. This was no ordinary jailbreak. Investigators soon realized it was a meticulously planned, coordinated operation that exposed serious weaknesses in the jail's security systems. Damaged doors, blind spots in surveillance, and lapses in protocol all played a role, raising tough questions about how such a breach could happen in the first place. The chase finally ended in Atlanta, where Groves was apprehended after months on the run. His capture brought relief to many, but it also left behind a trail of unanswered questions and a justice system forced to reckon with its own vulnerabilities. The saga of the Orleans Parish 10 was over, but the impact would linger. In this chapter, we'll take you inside the escape, how it was pulled off, the taunting messages left behind by the inmates, and the relentless pursuit that finally brought Derrick Groves to justice. We'll examine the clues, the missteps, and the dogged determination that defined this extraordinary manhunt. This is more than just a story of crime and punishment. It's a testament to the audacity of those who dared to escape, the desperation that drove them, and the unwavering resolve of law enforcement to restore order. Stay with us as we unravel the full story behind one of Louisiana's most dramatic jailbreaks. The escape plan was as bold as it was simple, starting with a toilet. Inmates ripped a steel toilet from the wall, revealing a hidden plumbing chase behind it. They broke through metal bars, likely using makeshift tools, and squeezed into a dark vertical shaft. Navigating pipes and conduits, they risked injury and detection, but pressed on. Emerging in an unsecured area, they bypassed cameras and guards, then made a final dash across a busy highway. In minutes, 10 men vanished into the night, leaving authorities stunned. The escape exposed glaring vulnerabilities in the jail's design and security. From a toilet to freedom, the audacity of their plan left officials scrambling for answers. The stage was set for a massive manhunt. Sheriff Susan Hudson called it a perfect storm, a rare and dangerous convergence of failures that made the Orleans Parish escape almost inevitable. Her words echoed the frustration and alarm felt by many in the community. As the reality of the situation became clear, the jail was plagued by chronic staff shortages, with far too few correctional officers to safely monitor the sprawling facility. Years of underfunding and neglect had left the building itself in a state of disrepair, riddled with architectural flaws that made it vulnerable to exploitation. With so few guards on duty, entire wings of the jail were left unsupervised for hours at a time. Security cameras often went unwatched, and routine patrols became sporadic. This lack of oversight gave inmates the time and space they needed to observe, plan, and ultimately act on their escape. The building's outdated design included hidden, unmonitored spaces like the plumbing chase, a narrow maintenance corridor running behind the cells. These blind spots were a critical oversight, providing perfect cover for anyone looking to slip away unnoticed. Over time, inmates became experts at spotting these weaknesses. They watched guard routines, memorized shift changes, and learned exactly when and where the jail's defenses were at their weakest. Their escape was not a spur-of-the-moment decision, but a carefully calculated move. The escape wasn't about luck, it was about opportunity, an opportunity created by years of neglect, deferred maintenance, and a system stretched to its breaking point. The crumbling walls and broken locks were more than just physical decay. They were symptoms of a deeper institutional failure. Fixing these issues would require more than just patchwork repairs. It would take a major investment in both infrastructure and staffing, as well as a commitment to real reform. The crisis forced the parish to finally confront the consequences of years of inaction. The Orleans Parish escape was, in many ways, inevitable in a system stretched far too thin. Overcrowded cells, exhausted staff, and outdated technology all combined to create an environment where disaster was only a matter of time. The jailbreak became a wake-up call for urgent reform, sparking protests, heated debates, and renewed calls for accountability. Community leaders, lawmakers, and activists demanded answers and action to prevent another crisis. In the end, the jailbreak was not just a story of escape, but a symptom of a much deeper institutional problem, one that would require courage, resources, and determination to finally address. When deputies found the breach, they also found taunts scrawled on the wall. "Too easy, lol," and a mocking smiley face greeted authorities, a final jab at the system they'd outsmarted. The messages weren't just graffiti, they were a challenge, daring law enforcement to catch them. These brazen clues fueled the manhunt, turning it into a matter of pride for police. The escapees wanted everyone to know how easily they'd slipped away. Their arrogance became the rallying cry for the search. The hunt was now personal. The manhunt began immediately, as the news of the escape sent shockwaves through the community and beyond. Local, state, and federal agencies quickly mobilized, pooling their resources and expertise. Officers from different jurisdictions set aside their usual boundaries, united by a single goal: to bring the fugitives back into custody before they could disappear for good. Command centers buzzed with activity, and every available officer was called in to join the search. Within just 24 hours, 3 of the escapees were recaptured in a series of coordinated raids and traffic stops. The swift action by law enforcement not only prevented further crimes, but also helped restore some public confidence that had been shaken by the breakout. The community, gripped by fear and uncertainty, breathed a collective sigh of relief as the first fugitives were brought back in handcuffs. Over the following weeks, the dragnet widened. Law enforcement agencies expanded their search beyond city limits, tracking leads that took them across state lines. Maps in command centers filled with pins marking possible sightings and tips. Officers coordinated with out-of-state counterparts, sharing intelligence and resources. 6 more fugitives were eventually tracked down, some hundreds of miles from where the escape began, showing just how far and fast the manhunt had spread. Some of the escapees sought refuge with friends or family, hoping to hide in plain sight. Others tried to blend into new communities, changing their appearance or adopting new identities. Undercover officers canvassed neighborhoods, following up on every tip, no matter how small. But the coordinated effort of law enforcement proved relentless. No matter where the fugitives ran, they found themselves pursued at every turn. Each arrest brought new information, fresh leads, names of accomplices, and clues about the remaining escapees' whereabouts. Detectives pieced together the fugitives' movements, tightening the net with every breakthrough. The focus soon narrowed to the last man still at large, Derrick Groves, whose cunning and resourcefulness set him apart from the rest. Groves, however, proved far more elusive than anyone anticipated. He seemed to vanish without a trace, leaving behind only dead ends and frustrated investigators. Abandoned buildings, remote hideouts, and empty safe houses were searched. But Groves was always one step ahead, slipping through the cracks just as the authorities closed in. His face became a symbol of the ongoing manhunt, plastered on wanted posters, flashed across news broadcasts, and displayed at every law enforcement briefing. The public was urged to stay vigilant, and tips poured in from across the region, but none led to his capture. The search for Groves turned into a showcase of modern manhunting. Investigators combined old-school detective work, interviews, stakeouts, and informants, with cutting-edge technology like digital surveillance, data analysis, and forensic science. Every tool at their disposal was used in the relentless pursuit of the final fugitive. Yet, despite their best efforts, Groves remained at large. The case file stayed open, a constant reminder of the unfinished business and the one man who had managed to slip through the cracks. The pressure mounted with each passing day. Law enforcement knew that bringing Derrick Groves to justice was not just about closing the case. It was about restoring a sense of safety and order to a community still on edge. After months of dead ends, a single anonymous tip pointed investigators to Atlanta. The U.S. Marshals' elite fugitive task force mobilized, using surveillance and informants to narrow down Groves's location. The tip led them to a quiet residential house. No signs of life, but all evidence suggested Groves was inside. Officers surrounded the home, blocking off streets and preparing for a possible standoff. Using a loudspeaker, they called for anyone inside to surrender, but were met with silence. The tension mounted as officers weighed their next move. With no response, they prepared for a tactical entry. The hunt for Groves was about to reach its climax. Every second counted. With no answer from inside, the tactical team deployed gas to flush out the suspect. Still, the house remained silent. No movement, no surrender. Officers breached the door and searched every room, finding nothing. In the basement, they discovered a concealed crawl space, cleverly built, nearly invisible. Flashlights revealed Groves, cornered and out of options. With gas seeping in and nowhere left to run, he finally surrendered. After 5 months, the manhunt ended not with a chase, but with Groves crawling from a dark hole. He was taken into custody without resistance. The last of the Orleans Parish 10 was back in chains. The saga was over. Why was Derrick Groves so dangerous? He was serving life for a brutal Mardi Gras shooting in 2024. Groves opened fire on a crowd, killing 2 and injuring several more, an act that shocked New Orleans. Convicted of 2 counts of second-degree murder and attempted murder, he had nothing to lose by escaping. His desperation made him a high-risk fugitive, willing to do anything to stay free. Law enforcement knew capturing him was a matter of public safety. The community he terrorized couldn't rest until he was caught. His crimes underscored the urgency of the manhunt. Justice demanded his return to prison. With Groves in custody, the legal process shifted to extradition. He would be transferred from Georgia back to Louisiana under heavy guard. New charges awaited him: felony escape, conspiracy, and destruction of property. These charges, though symbolic for a lifer, send a message. Escape will be met with severe consequences. Groves will now be classified as a high-risk inmate, likely facing permanent solitary confinement. The operation's success highlighted the power of interagency collaboration. With Groves off the streets, the community could finally breathe easier. The focus now turns to the courtroom, where Groves will answer for his final desperate bid for freedom.